Alright, so welcome back. Really has been a while, hasn't it? So I haven't really had much time lately, so I think my last video was like 2 months ago. I have some time right now. I'm gonna try and get a few videos out the door today. But anyways, enough about that. Today let's talk about a maker that doesn't really get too much buzz around here. So this one right here is the Flare by Jesse Jarosz, and something to note is that this is the only custom I've actually owned from Jesse. I normally like to get a few customs from a maker before making a video because then I'm able to talk about the maker himself. Because then I get a sense of the guy's work. Because right now I only have a sample size of one. So in this review I'm not going to be able to make any blanket statements about the maker because honestly I can't. Every good maker has an off day, and even a broken clock is right twice a day. So I can't really talk about the maker because I don't want to give them any undue praise or just trash them for a single one-off knife when the rest of their work might just be excellent. So yeah, this is just going to be the knife that's in front of me right now, but with that out of the way, let's talk. So Jesse Jarosz is a maker from Nebraska, I think. I was hearing about his stuff on and off for a few years, but then not so much recently. And the reason I'm suspecting is just because of the way the guy values his knives. He is one of those makers offering affordable customs. By the time they make it to a secondary market, they drop even lower than that. At least for me personally, when I see a new full custom from a maker going for about $400, let's say, on secondary, flags come up, red flags come up. I'm thinking to myself, there must be something wrong here. Something just does not add up. This can't be any good. So I went a long time without ever really handling his stuff. There's just too much else out there that I'm actively chasing. So I just kind of ignored them when they did pop up, and I just kind of didn't really give it a second look, honestly. Then I see this flare right here. And what really caught my eye was a few things. Well, so first thing was the Askus that you see right here. It's on the front and on the clip. So I'm very picky with my stuff. There are a lot of patterns out there that I just don't like all that much. So when I'm ordering a custom or speccing one out, I'll pick out my own Damascus and Timascus patterns. This though, this one right here, this is real pretty to me. But the thing that really made me pull the trigger on this one right here wasn't just the Timascus, it was the price. It was priced stupidly low for the materials that you see here. I just couldn't believe that my friend was trying to move it for that little. So, didn't know too much about it, I just took a shot in the dark. I wasn't even a huge fan of the design, I didn't even bother to ask what size it was. I was interested enough and I had some cash lying around. But when I got it though, wow, I was blown away. So originally, this knife as configured was sold from the maker for $795. I got it for quite a bit less than that. Both prices, that's a steal. That's an insane price. Let me just walk you through why. First up, props to Jesse for his transparency as a maker. This guy tells everyone exactly what percent or what parts of the process is done by smart machinery, and how much of it exactly is done by hand on manual machines. I pulled a direct quote from his website about the flare. So here it is. Blade and lock blanks are cut using wire EDM. Otherwise, all work is done by hand on manual machines. So what that says to me is that this is basically pretty much a handmade custom. Because cutting out rough shapes using wire EDM just kills the grunt work. That's the work that doesn't really require much talent, but it does eat up a lot of your time. So right off the bat, I'm calling this one a handmade custom. Next up, I don't think I need to tell you guys this, but Timascus is really expensive stuff. The entire front handle slab on this knife right here, and the clip, those are two big pieces of Timascus right there. Base price on the flare is $550. All the Timascus just added $250 to the overall package. I've spent more than that adding Timascus pivot collars and clips on other custom builds. So to do this for only $250, I do need to give it to him. But that's not exactly where it ends here. What really got me, though, is the thing that you can't really see in videos, or see in photos. It was just the overall build quality of this thing. I basically expected nothing and received something that was close to perfection. This is an incredibly well-built knife, and the level of fit and finish here is well above its price range. The knife is mechanically perfect. Centering is dead on. Grinds are symmetrical. You just saw the action right here, but descents, perfectly dialed in. Action, not free, so it's not going to free drop or anything like that, but it is very smooth. And the reason it's free actually came as a pretty big surprise for me. I don't think I can show it right here. Let me try and shine some light on it. Okay, I don't know if that's helping. You're going to need to take my word for it, but this thing is running on Teflon or Nylon. It's one or the other, I'm not exactly which, but both are synthetic and close enough for me. I'm just going to call it Teflon for convenience. Now, I'm not one of those people out there who hates Teflon for no reason. That's not why I'm surprised. I'm surprised because doing a flipper using Teflon is difficult. Ball bearings basically give you a free action by default. Phosphor bronze isn't as easy as ball bearings, but I do feel like phosphor bronze carries the momentum a little bit better than Teflon. But check this out. This right here is something I'd expect from a maker like Neil Blackwood or Jim Burke. Like people who have been in the game for some time and just have things nailed down perfect. This guy managed to give me a satisfying double-click action on Teflon with a relatively light blade on a dressed-up knife that's half Askus for slightly under $800. And trust me when I say this is done right. There's zero side-to-side play when it's locked, zero side-to-side play when it's unlocked. For me at least, Teflon is a fine material for washers. It just needs to be done right. You give it half a drop of oil on either side, and it just doesn't get any better than this. So, I will say, well done, Jesse, well done. And now it feels like I'm quoting Breaking Bad. But anyways, yeah, let's keep going. So, blade on this one is an AEBL. Not the highest end steel out there, but very usable. It's never one of those maker steels where it's very easy to work with and it takes finishes very readily. It's kind of like CPM 154 in that way. The finish on this one is something I haven't really seen before, though. It's a horizontal hand satin, but it's a very coarse hand satin. It's the kind you can really feel. Like if I run my nail right here, I can feel every little bump on this. So it'll probably give you a bit more resistance when you're really cutting into something. But the effect that it gives you right here is so dramatic that I can't really complain too much. On other knives, a satin finish might catch the light and kind of play with it a little. This one right here feels like it grabs the light and just kind of really won't let go. That makes it the most eye-catching of any I've seen, and it doesn't look as soft or as gentle as a normal hand satin. The blade itself, though, it's full flat ground, and the edge is nice as well. It's consistent pretty much all the way to the end back here. Let's see. Yeah, and that's because you have this very effective sharpening choil right here. It clears the plunge grind and gives you plenty of room to sharpen it. But design-wise, I do have to say that probably is my biggest complaint on here. Because look at the way I hold the knife right now. I want to hold it closer to the edge right here, but I can't. That sharpening choil right there just introduces so much dead space into the design that everything from the flipper to the edge right here, I don't feel comfortable using. Sure, I can get a finger up here, but that's a sharpened corner right there sticking straight at my finger, so I have to be extra careful to hug that flipper right there, and I just don't feel like risking it. Other than that, though, I will say ergonomics on this one are actually pretty nice. I've gone on record before saying that I don't like neutral handles, and I still stand by that. I will also say, though, that I do respect it when a neutral handle is done right. Here, it's comfortable, and to be honest, a more complex handle just wouldn't really work with this design right here. Because you see the blade is somewhat plain, so you kind of need a somewhat plain handle to go along with it. And the other thing is, it's actually not as neutral as you might think. He actually did a few things here. So if you take a look at this bottom part right here, it's a little bit easier to show on this side, I guess. But he's kind of trying to do something to lock your hand in, because your first two fingers kind of fit over here. And then this part right here is actually taller than this part. So it kind of locks your hand in. You feel somewhat locked in. Don't get me wrong though, this knife is still plenty smooth. That's just the nature of the beast here. But I will say that jimping up top over here really does help. And before I forget, the flipper also has jimping as well. Forgot to mention that. This gives you a tiny bit of grip here. Could do with or without. But anyways, back to the stuff up top. Here it really helps. It looks like he filed these in by hand, so they might look a little bit funny, but I do have to say it's well done. It's sharp and grabby, but not too aggressive. It's rounded just enough on the edges, so it doesn't really eat into your hand. And that jimping right there is actually half of what's going to keep that knife in your hands. Because the rest of it is just, there's nothing else to really hold you on this. So it really does kind of rely on that over here. Up on the forward part right here, see if I can get a good angle on it. I might just close it. Yeah, you kind of get a look right there. But he did a mixed Strider style dragon spine on this. So it doesn't really do much functionally, and since it's mostly smooth and it's a bit too far for you to really reach, it doesn't really serve a functional purpose. But when you have it closed, just look at the way the light just kind of dances on that. A smooth spine might have been a better choice for a clean design like this, but I do have to say I really do like that scalloping up there. Okay, so back to ergonomics. I really do get sidetracked easily. So like I said, it's neutral, so it doesn't really excel in any one grip, but at least it's good at all of them. I'm getting no hot spots at all on this thing. It's nicely rounded in the back here just to support the palm. And in reverse grip, your thumb goes right over the end over here, just like I prefer. It's a slim knife too, so it's never really going to feel as good as a thicker handled knife, but it does just fine over here. The only problem in hand is this. See if I can hear that creaking right there? That right there is the lock bar moving over. If you just open a knife normally, most of the time you'll get some slight up and down play right here. It's caused by the lock bar not really moving over as far as it really needs to. So when you put any pressure on it, it just kind of moves the rest of the way. Don't get me wrong about that. It's not like it's unsafe or anything like that. Like, let me just show you. Yeah, it's not like it's failing or anything like that. And it might even break in over time. And the play actually completely goes away after it moves, but and even when it doesn't, the play is barely perceivable. You basically need to grab the blade to check for it. The only problem with me is just how annoying the whole thing is. I hate that creaking sound. And I've said it before, but I just don't like feeling anything moving on the knife when it's in hand. And feeling that lock bar move over just kind of makes the knife overall feel less solid than it actually is. And that sound is just not something I like to hear. So it's not a huge deal, but it is worth mentioning because it does annoy me. But while I have you here, I might as well mention the lockup. So there's no stick if the lock doesn't move. There's a little bit of stick if it does move. It's a kind of stick that's very slight, and it just kind of lets you know that you have a solid lockup. It's still easy to open this one-handed, so I'm fine with it. I'm tired of people saying that lock stick is a defect. I'd rather have a safer lockup and a smoother unlocking experience or anything like that. But that's a rant for another day. Speaking of pet peeves though, this one right here gives you almost too much lock bar access in my opinion. So there's one big scallop on the inside on the lock bar here and a cutaway on the other side. It's more than you need in my opinion, and on another knife it might be a problem, but here I don't really mind it. It's done right at least. Like on a thicker knife, you might be resting on this part right here. So it's going to be resting on just this right here. And it might be a little bit uncomfortable on your finger. But over here, it's so slim that your finger just kind of wraps around right there. So it's in that place where your joint is. So I can't really complain here, and it does make the unlocking marginally easier too. The other thing is when you do unlock the knife, the detent hits the lock bar right about over here. So by the time it hits your thumb, it's basically going to be over. But yeah, like I was saying before though, no hot spots at all, and part of what makes the ergonomics so good over here is just how much he rounded the overall thing. Like on the frame, the clip, just everywhere on this. Let's finally take a closer look at that Askus front. So I'm going to let you take in the beauty of this thing by yourself. I'm just going to keep talking in the background. So you'll see it's not like it's not extremely shiny like you sometimes see. It's just kind of slightly subdued over here. And on the sides, you can really notice that all the effort you can really notice all the effort he put into rounding that frame. There isn't a single edge that you touch normally that feels like he didn't work on. The upper side over here is just blasted in bronze titanium. You can see the same rounding here. You might even see it a bit better. But yeah, to move over to a clip right here, and you see it's the same Askus as the front side, and it looks about just as good. It's solid too. It's not like one of those tappy clips that you really hear. And in hand, it just kind of feels like a rounded bump on the frame. You don't feel a single edge from that clip in hand. But I do need to say he really should have made this clip taller right here, and this is probably my most non-subjective complaint on here. So I have literally one pair of jeans that I can carry this knife in. It's just not tall enough for the pocket seam on any of the other ones. Like, it'll bunch up about halfway over here and you just can't get it to carry any deeper. The clip's just not tall enough to accommodate for it. And this honestly needs a bit of work. It might carry alright in slacks or something like that, but just not for most jeans. Backspacer on this one's just a plain piece of black G10. Some might think it looks a bit out of place here. I'm pretty alright with it. But anyways, guess that leaves me at the end right here. And I do need to say, this right here is a very impressive knife. Design-wise, not talking about like materials or anything like that, but just design. The flare is a bit boring for my taste. But I do have to admit that it's done right. It's built very well. It has a killer action on Teflon. And if that right there is any indication for the rest of the guy's work, then I think you're getting a hell of a deal with his customs. It's not perfect, but it's also not too far away from it. There are a few things he can improve on, like I said, I don't like this area right here. I don't like how the lock bar moves. And the clip just isn't really quite tall enough for most pockets, but he's doing so much right here that this knife has definitely put Jarosz knives on my radar. If I see a new design from him that I like, I'm going to be picking it up. So just some closing shots of the knife. And I think that's all from me today. So I'll see you in the next video. Take care.